Hello everyone, I'm Mr. Gray Skies. Welcome to the Horror Archive. Tonight's story is brought to you by DoverHawk on Reddit. I hope you enjoy. For as long as I can remember, I felt it in my head. It's a sort of buzzing sensation, like an electrical circuit is constantly running in the spot just behind my eyes. I remember talking about it when I was younger, asking what that feeling was, but my parents never quite understood. I eventually grew to understand that this sensation was unique to me, and I left it at that. I was only 5 or so at the time, and having no concept of brain tumors or other horrible medical conditions, that explanation was enough for me. Sometimes the buzzing gets loud, though. Really loud, and it feels like my eye sockets and the roots of my teeth are vibrating. As a child, I found that taking naps helped to calm the storm in my head, but eventually even that stopped helping. I can't say exactly when I realized that I could use that buzzing feeling to move things without touching them. It was like flexing a muscle I didn't know I had, but one that had been there all along, flexing instinctively. I knew the sensation of doing it well enough. The feeling of the pressure in my head, the buzzing growing stronger than softer, like the beating of a heart, and a sort of invisible force pulling away from me. I'd felt it countless times before, usually when I was upset or the buzzing was particularly obnoxious. Things would fall off high counters or cabinet doors would open by themselves and the feeling would go away. With age came understanding, and with understanding came control. I would quiet that buzzing by moving things around my room, stretching the muscle in my brain like I stretched my legs after having them fall asleep from sitting too long. I was 8 when I began bending spoons. I'd seen it on television as a magic trick, and it gave me the idea that I might be able to do that too. I quickly found a whole new sensation that relieved the pressure better than anything else I'd done. I could feel, in a way, the thick, dense metal of the spoon in my head. I pushed at it a little and it resisted. The resistance felt good. Really good. I pushed at it harder than I could have with my own physical hands, and the spoon twisted all the way around. The buzzing went nearly silent. I started doing that every day after school. I would steal a spoon from the kitchen and spend 15 minutes bending it into all sorts of shapes until it was nothing but a warm, useless pile of twisted metal. My parents eventually found the box of spoons under my bed and were absolutely furious with me. I tried then to tell them the truth, but they downright refused to even entertain the idea that I was special. It wasn't the first time I'd had this conversation with them, although it was the first time after I'd started to understand and control this feeling in my head. They called me a liar, told me that I was crazy if I really believed that I bent those spoons with my mind. And that stung worse than anything I'd ever felt. I could have shown them, sure, but the hurt was too great for my 8-year-old mind to handle, and I shut them out. If they didn't want to believe me, they didn't have to. They didn't deserve to know the truth anyway. They weren't good enough. The years passed and I found myself needing to exercise that muscle more and more. It became this constant pressure in my head that was begging for release. I would slide books off desks at school, change the time on the clocks, flicker lights, just so I could have any semblance of relief from the constant buzzing and the constant pressure. It had gotten so bad one day as I walked home from school that it had all but consumed my thoughts. I'd been planning on going to the quarry later, hoping that perhaps breaking solid stone might provide me the relief I so desperately needed, when my eyes fell upon a stray cat. Its matted fur, bony structure, and feral, untrusting eyes told me that it had seen a long, hard life. I almost didn't even think about snapping its neck. I could feel the bones break in my head. They gave almost no resistance compared to the other things I'd taken to breaking those days, and the relief was so sudden, so complete that my eyes watered from the pure ecstasy. I'd never done anything like that until that day. But that was the first of many stray cats, dogs, and birds whose lives were ended for the sake of my own sanity. That first one bought me about 3 days of relief. Cats usually did for a while. Dogs were 4 or 5 days and birds were a day, sometimes not even that. I'd started doing that 2 years ago, but it only took a year for the effects to start to taper off. I found myself needing relief from the buzzing more and more frequently, and the hunt for prey more and more difficult. Birds avoided me, cats and dogs both actively fled from my presence. Not that it did as much good anymore. These days I can hardly buy myself 8 hours of relief from a stray dog. The buzzing got worse, much worse, and the pressure was so intense it felt like my head would explode and send my brains halfway to Jupiter. I found a stray dog on the way home from school and had brought it home with me, dragging it about 5 feet behind me as I walked. I was going to wait until just before my mother came home to buy as much time as I could before I went to bed. Because although sleeping worked when I was little, the buzzing keeps me up most nights now. I hadn't heard her come home early. I'd been too focused on the pressure. I didn't hear her walk up the stairs or down the hall, calling my name, asking me what I wanted for dinner. I did hear her scream, though, right after she opened the bedroom door and saw the dog's head twist all the way back like an owl. I almost didn't have to think about snapping her neck, too. I never felt such bliss in my entire life as I did at that moment. The pressure vanished, the buzzing stopped. I sobbed. Not from the act of matricide I just performed, mind you, but from the absolute euphoria I felt. That was 2 days ago. I've been able to keep up appearances so far, although my missing parents will eventually arouse suspicion, I'm sure. I have my dad locked in the basement until I need his help to relieve the pressure in my head. I'm sure it'll come back soon. I can almost feel it starting to form again behind my eyes. I'm not sure what I'll do after I'm done with my dad, but I'm not even sure it matters. They're all just spoons anyway. Welcome to the end of the video. If you liked tonight's story, please show some love to the author credited below and hit the subscribe button so you never miss an upload. I hope to see you there.